This is the neck of the tooth. After this, the body will come in, but the body is not visible in the oral cavity. Okay, so this is the cervical part. We say cervical caries. What do you mean by cervical caries? Caries in the neck portion. Okay, and this is the neck portion of all the teeth. Since there is neck in every tooth, that is why cervical caries will be a class 5. Okay, so below, what is the height of contour?
The maximum height from every tooth.
Where would be that?
In the middle.
There?
Yeah, or lower.
Here?
Yeah.
The maximum inclination.
The maximum convexity in any tooth is the height of contour. Okay? Below the height of contour and including some part of height is the cervical. Above that is the occlusal. Okay? This is the boundary between a class 1 and a class 5. Okay? So sometimes if somebody go in deep, you should know the concept. If you don't know, the definition will not only work. Okay? So the height of contour, this is the height of contour. Below this, any carious lesion, small or big, would be considered as a class 5. And above this, including the fissures, will be class 1. Okay? So you can see in the anterior teeth, the design of the anterior teeth are different than the posterior teeth. We all know that. It's very obvious. Okay? You can see here. Okay? As you move forward, what happened to the teeth? From anterior to posterior, what happened? What is the general change that is coming in?
The convexity.
Huh?
The convexity becomes more.
Okay, the convexity first, then this is not obvious. The convexity is not obvious. Every has a convexity. This one is more, then it comes here, the convexity is less. Yeah.
It becomes bigger in the width. Yeah.
Which width? There are so many widths. Like this, like this. Horizontally, like from mesiodistal.
Yes.
We will not say horizontals here. There are definite numbers and names here.
Yes.
Mesiodistal, occlusocervical, buccolingual. You have to say it like this, okay?
The occlusocervical width is becoming less and less.
Okay, and the mesiodistal width or
Bigger.
dimension is bigger. Okay, so in a class 5 cavities, the shape of the tooth on the labial surface will translate the cavity design, generally speaking. Okay, if you see here, as the mesiodistal width is larger, so the cavity is larger. But if you go back and see the anterior teeth, the mesiodistal width is smaller. It's slightly bigger in the incisal area than the gingival. So since the cavity is in the gingival portion or in the cervical portion, the dimension of the cavity here is smaller comparable to the molar teeth. Okay, this is one point. The other point is the shape of the tooth or the labial surface of the tooth in posterior teeth and anterior teeth, in all teeth except. For example, if you see the molar tooth is somewhat like this. Okay. The neck of the molar is almost straight. If you see here, the gingiva is coming straight like this, and here it's elongated. There is a difference. Okay. So the gingival part of the class 5 cavity will almost be slate, just straight, comparable to the parallel to the tooth. No, parallel to the gingival. The same goes to here, the occlusal portion. So you'll be having a rounded cavity. If you make this cavity like this, comparable to this. So which one is look more obvious, more appealing? The cavity which correlates to the shape, overall shape of the tooth structure itself. Okay. In anterior portion, for example, if there is a molar tooth, like this, it has a slightly elongated gingival part. Okay. So what will be the shape of the cavity? It would be like this. So whichever wall coincides with whichever wall, it should be almost at the same level, at the same angle, at the same design. Okay, so this is how you shape the cavity in general. This is second point. The third point is this, that these are typodons, okay? They are plastic teeth. In actual clinical scenarios, you will be very lucky to have a pinpoint class 5 cavities available, in which you can design accordingly, beautifully, okay? Most of the time you will find out that caries, they are very extensive. Yeah, they will be very extensive, most of the time. So you may not be able to prepare the ideal shape, which we are giving you the idea of today here, but you have to try to create very near to the shape of the tooth structure itself. Okay, it's very important, because when you place a composite restoration or an amalgam or whichever restoration, when it coincides with the shape of the overall tooth structure, it will give a pleasant look to the tooth itself. Okay, it will not be dirty. It looks, or it will be very obviously good. Okay, so today we are going to create a cavity in the lower. Okay, and the shape of the cavity would be more or less like this, the same one. Okay, so it will slightly, like we will move from here, reaching to the gingival portion. Since this is like that, so we'll follow the cavity like this. This would be the dimension. We should not cross the marginal ridge areas. If you go more towards the marginal ridge, then there is always a fear of undermining those, so we don't want it. Okay, so we'll cut short of it, and then we will remove it from the occlusal portion of the, or near to the height of contour. So this would be the roughly design of the cavity. The depth of the cavity in those situations should be like around 1 to 1.25, okay, towards the occlusal, and towards the gingival it is less. It's around 1.25, okay, and in the occlusal portion it almost reaches to 2 milli or 1.75. What is the reason for this? Why there is a different depths in
Because the control.
The enamel.
Enamel in the occlusion is the more thicker
Okay.
than
Like we reach the
cervical.
dentine more quicker down.
Okay, what is the other reason? This is one reason. Okay, it's correct. What is the other reason? Huh? The pulp is near where? Yes. So in the cervical area, since the enamel is small, thinner, the dentine is also thinner comparable to the occlusal surface. Okay, and the pulp chamber is near in this area. Okay, so for example, if this is a cervical portion, the pulp here is nearer to the tooth surface comparable to the occlusal portion. So if you cut equally in both areas, there will be more chances of reaching near to the pulp or even exposing the pulp at that area. So that is why there is a slight difference between the gingival preparation area, the axial wall. So what would be the final result?
Occlusal is deeper.
Occlusal is deeper, yes. So if you cross section it, what will happen? You will be having an axial wall like this. If you cut this and see it cross sectionally, so your occlusal wall be like this. Okay, so it will coincide to the pulp. The pulp will go like this as well. Okay, it's a cross section. So the same we will apply it to this tooth as well. Okay, so let's start preparing. We have a 245. We'll start with the 245. Most of the preparations that we do here in typodons are 245. Okay, and we know what is the dimension of 245. It's around 0.1 milli, 0.8 to 1 millimeter the diameter, and 3 millimeter length. Okay, so we'll start preparing. There are two ways to approach the preparation. One, the easier way for the beginners is what? Just create a punch holes of the desired depth which we want in different areas and then start preparing it. Try to connect those dots. It will be much controllable and you will be able to create a proper depth, a uniform depth everywhere. Okay?
One milli.
We will go to almost a milli. Okay. Here as well. We will try to be conservative initially. Then as we move on, we will remove it around. Okay. So here I will prepare a 0.7 or something like this. Now I have 3 punch holes. Now I will try to connect those, but keeping in mind the overall shape of the cavity. Okay, it's very important. Do not distort the cavity. Okay. Just do the brushing movement, uniform movement. Follow the curvature of the cavity. Okay, I'm following the curvature, see? Now I'll go a little deeper here because it's the occlusal. Okay, now this remaining chip is very easy to remove. Okay, now this is the journal uniform shape. You see it's slightly, cervically it is slightly like this, and occlusally is more or less straight following the occlusal part. Okay, now we'll try to finish. First we have to check the depth of the cavity in different parts of the area, and then we'll try to finish. The direction of the burr is very important. Okay.
Always perpendicular to the floor.
Yes, because we are creating a 90-degree angle, and we are preparing it for the occlusal, for the amalgam cavity. Okay. For amalgam, there is an additional feature which you have to place it, and that additional feature will be, what would be that additional feature? What will you do? A lock and groove. And how will you create that lock? By inverted cone bar. Yes, very good. So we have an inverted cone. So what is the advantage of inverted cone here? The deeper part of the inverted cone is non-cutting. So it will move around the axial floor or the axial wall without cutting anything. Okay? And the sides of the inverted cone is cutting. So it will create a groove all around. Okay? But it's a very aggressive burr. Yes, so you have to be very careful not to overcut. Okay, most of the time students lose control and they overcut the tooth, which is not recommended. Okay, so I'll just go inside and I will follow. Now I have created a groove. Now I will just now the undercuts are prepared and we'll try to finish the cavity.
Doctor, we put the inverted cone to
On the inner
finish
side
the groove.
to prepare the grooves, not finish. To prepare the grooves. Now the grooves are prepared. We'll just finish the cavity.
For the
We'll
occlusal
try-
and cervical ridge walls.
Only the cervical.
Only the cervical.
The occlusal and cervical both. Okay. So we'll create here. These are the areas.
A lot.
And please remember that it should always be in the dentine. Okay? You should not cut the enamel for groove in any cavity. This is the rule. So whenever you have been asked that where to create an extra retentive groove, you will be given options: enamel, dentine, enamel only, dentine and enamel combine, all this. So you have to pick dentine only. Okay?
Doctor, the retention groove will be only in the external walls, not in the axial.
External wall is in enamel, never in enamel.
Retention groove.
Yes, retention groove. I'll show you in the on the diagram as well. So now we have only finished the walls. So I'm keeping the direction of the burr accordingly, okay? It's very important to not to miss the 90 degree. Since the the tooth is round, you can see mesiodistally it's rounded, because it moves like this. Okay, so your axial wall will also move like this. Okay, that is why I create a diagram here. You see this? It's a rounded tooth. So when you take a cross section, your axial wall should move accordingly to the curvature of the tooth structure. So it is round like this. Okay, it should not be straight. If you make it straight, what will happen? The middle portion will be more proximal to the pulp, which is not recommended. So this would be considered as an overextension or overcutting. So that should be discouraged, okay? That is why the cross section of the cavity has been shown in the blue. You can see the blue picture. It's like this, okay? So this is the final cavity. You can see the shape of the cavity. Okay, the cervical floor is just parallel to the cavity cervical, and the occlusal is almost parallel to the occlusal surface. Okay, the axial wall is slightly, you can say, convex in the middle, and towards the distal and mesial it's slightly deeper. So it gives an overall convex cavity, and you have to double check it with the help of a probe. Here, there should be a retentive grooves. Okay, so I can feel a retentive groove here, and you can create it with the help of inverted cone. Okay,
And the depth,
the depth should be here. It should be around 1.75 to 2 milli, and here around 1.25 to 1. Okay, roughly speaking. Okay.